Okay, I'd like to bring this meeting to order. And a roll call. So, Commissioner Fox,
Here.
Commissioner Whalen.
Fine.
I don't know who say that. Commissioner Norton. Here. Commissioner Joyce. Here. Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Cluwin.
Here.
Commissioner, Council Member Representative David Spence.
Here.
Thank you. The Flagstaff Open Space Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. So we have 2 sets of minutes to approve because we did not do it last time during the joint meeting with Parks and Rec. Is there a motion to approve the January 27th, 2025 minutes? So moved. A second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then the second set of minutes was the combined commission meeting from last month on February 24th, 2025.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. So public comment at this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject that is not scheduled before the commission on this day. The Arizona Open Meeting Law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking action on an item which is not listed on the prepared agenda. Commission members may, however, respond to criticism made by those addressing the commission, ask staff to review a matter, or ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please wait for the chair to call for public comment at the time the item is heard. So I'm going to move on to number 6, business items. We have some Open Space Commission introductions for the benefit of our new members, and we have a new member here today. And you're Bill?
Right. Yep. I'm Bill Cluwin. I've been living here in Flagstaff since 2002. I'm a retired attorney. I did investment and banking law. And I have a particular interest simply because I think that this Open Space Commission is doing a wonderful job. I live near Observatory Mesa, up there a couple times a week. And in Germany, they have a thing called a Stadtwald, which translates as the city woods. And I think that Flagstaff here is a little unique that it has its own woods. My wife recently saw an antelope up there, and I still haven't seen one. Glad she didn't. There's been nesting goshawks up there for the last 2 years near Matson Tank. So it's just a wonderful spot, and it got me interested in just learning more about it, I guess, by being on the commission.
Thank you. So I'm Jackie Thomas, and I'm the chair.
I'm Mary Norton, and I am the liaison from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'm Nat. I need to be Nat.
And I'm Bruce Fox.
I'm Molly Joyce. And Bruce is the co-chair.
And that's Sylvia sitting there taking minutes for us.
I know.
Very important.
And I'm we met and want to introduce Rebecca here.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Sayers. I'm the Recreation, Open Space and Events Division Director.
So business item B on our agenda is the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge naming, and this group of people have come before us before for about a plaque on the bridge, and I believe there's a presentation, and we can talk about this, but we do need to have a vote at the end of this discussion. So this is a decision item for us today. Oops. Sorry. Councilmember Spence, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure I understand the location of this bridge. is it, the Arizona Trail crosses the Rio on this bridge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes,
Is it?
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
It's that plank one.
that's the red one.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm Jane Jackson and I'm the one that's.
You were here before, yes.
And I'm here representing the Friends of Jack Welch and Jaywalkers again. We're here today with an update on the plaque that would honor the memory of Jack Welch by naming the bridge at Picture Canyon the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge. Do you have the picture? There it is. Okay, so that plaque will be made by Flagstaff and Engraving, who also made the plaque that the city installed on a bench in memory of Jack at Francis Short Pond. The plaque will be 18 by 12 inches. It's going to be made in cast holly bronze, which is bronze colored aluminum. Solid bronze is a bit too expensive for anyone. The background texture will be pebble, and that's a typical background texture on all the plaques you see around town. After Jack's passing, many participants in the group Jaywalkers and other friends made donations toward memorials for Jack. The bench at Francis Short Pond was the first memorial, and the naming of the bridge will be the last honoring Jack for his dedication to preserve the canyon. All expenses will be paid for with the donations that were made. Seeing other items regarding Picture Canyon on your agenda for today, I have no doubt that Jack would be pleased by all the improvements to one of his most valued places. Our hope is to have the plaque installed by July of this year, and that will be the second anniversary of Jack's passing, and we would have a dedication ceremony then. We would now like to request the formal recommendation from Open Space to the City Council to propose the name the Rio de Flag Bridge at Picture Canyon Natural Cultural and Preserve, the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge. And it is, as the plaque says, the memorial bridge on the Arizona Trail. Arizona Trail was another of Jack's passions. Can you read what that says?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'll make it a little bit.
I've got, yeah. It says, Jack Welch, 1938 to 23, was an early advocate for the creation of Picture Canyon Natural and Cultural Preserve. Through his group, Walk the Walk, he raised awareness and educated the public on the importance of conservation, leading over 100 walks through Picture Canyon. Jack was a champion of connecting people with open spaces and trails.
I have a couple slides to share about the artwork.
Okay. And
And if you, unless you guys have questions for.
well, I keep waiting until you finish.
Diane Henry, who is a volunteer for our Open Space Stewards Program. She's also working on a beautification grant application that would also support the recognition of Jack Welch with a piece of artwork on the bridge. So the initiative that Jane is presenting on today is the official naming for the bridge that will have to go through City Council. We have a date picked up for that in April, right? And so what we're looking for is a recommendation from the commission, taking it forward to City Council. But there's also this element of artwork that's going to be placed on the bridge. Diana Henry has been working with a Hopi artist to develop some artwork and submit that grant application. So the next slide that you see is a very rough draft that was developed by that artist that could support that application. And she gave me a short description to kind of read a little bit about this. Again, I give you a little bit of background. So incorporating into the design is the logo of the Picture Canyon Natural Cultural Preserve that was initially designed as a Picture Canyon working group before it was actually preserved by the city. So that's really exciting to include that as well. Centered are the depictions of the Canyon Falls, a prominent ponderosa pine, and the petroglyph silhouette that you see there. The bands to the left and the right of the work are the Hopi traditional colors and cardinal directions, and the white dashes represent moisture. At the top of the piece is a depiction of the Hopi sun, Tawa, Within the Hopi culture, Tawa carries the prayers of people who seek guidance, well-being, and a good life. To the right and left of the sun are symbolic representations of cumulus clouds. And it's believed within the Hopi tradition that when one passes, there is a transition that occurs. Loved ones returned to the land as clouds that bring life-sustaining moisture for the people in the lands in form of snow and rain. Together, these symbols convey the natural and cultural importance of Fisher Canyon and are a reminder of the continuing presence of loved ones in our lives. Jack's legacy lives on through all people who draw strength from his example of dedication and stewardship for this important and meaningful place. I'm not gonna share that with you, and we're here to support any questions, comments.
So are these being put together on the bridge or one on a rock and one's in a different place?
So they will be separate from each other.
Okay.
The plaque is about Jack,
Right.
period. And exactly where it's going to be is yet to be determined, not on a rock. There are no good rocks nearby, and carrying a rock to the bridge would be a little bit much. So at this point, it could be on a post. There are places that we could do that, or it will be on the bridge itself. But it would be, our idea would be to have it centered on one side of the bridge and the Hopi artwork would be on the other side.
And are we voting today on the Hopi artwork and on the plaque? or
I don't think we need to vote for the Hopi artwork
Okay.
since the commission kind of gave like a head nod for that earlier.
Okay.
The application has been submitted to the beautification grant project, and
Okay,
when we're awarded or when we're notified,
right,
we'll let you know about that.
okay.
But the official naming project that we need a recommendation for is to get the bridge named the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge at Fisher Canyon. And that's what we'll be taking to city council. That's what we're looking for, a recommendation from the commission today.
I'd like to see maybe in the presentation to city council, in case no one doesn't know, I think Jack was citizen of the year. So
He was, and
he's been a long time contributor to the entire community. And I think I'd like to see that recognized in the presentation. The other thing, he did a lot of work for the city. I can't remember the commissions he was on, but he's been a big public citizen for a long time. I'd like to see the council understand that.
And there has already been a first presentation to council, and they recommended that it come to here, and now I'm going back to there. So, and we will repeat some of that, but they have all about Jack.
Okay.
Questions for me?
Commissioner White.
No question, just a comment, comments. I've been a supporter of this for a long time, but not as direct as I have been on other things. So I would like from a distance to congratulate all the effort that went into it. I mean, we're memorializing Jack, but it was a group of you're representing part of that group. It's just an amazing thing to be able to sit back and support it, but not do anything. It's great. Second thing I wanted to mention is in 1972, 3 people organized the first running club in Flagstaff. And one of those persons' name was Jack Welch.
1972.
Huh?
I didn't know he was,
1972.
he didn't come here until the 90s.
No, it's just another person named Jack Welch. Just another person named Jack Welch. And so that's the second thing that was of interest. The third thing may not be so much of interest, but is the bridge going to be, or is it there now?
The bridge is there.
The bridge is there.
Is it where the old bridge was?
It's the same bridge that's always been there.
It's that wooden, that wooden one.
It's a
It's a
wooden
big-
bridge, painted
short
white,
bridge.
right there.
We painted.
Yeah.
No, the bridge I'm talking about was the old railroad bridge.
Oh,
No.
no,
So in 1969, 1970,
long
I
gone.
ran across that. All it was a big beam, big square beam with a bunch of wood that was down into the
It
river.
would be fun to have a picture.
I wish I had, didn't take cameras that was down with me and when I was
Yeah.
around, but I can certainly remember it. I found it by following the old railroad bed on coming up from the other Happy Valley side. And I was just discovering, what's around. And I followed that. And all of a sudden, here was this canyon. And here was this old bridge. And I thought, wow. And now you've taken it way to the next level. It's just wonderful. Appreciate it. And Jack, like all of us, was a friend of mine too.
Well, do you have anything to say? I'm not hearing any, we thank you for coming back again and presenting to us. And, if there is any more things anybody would like to say or questions, can I have a motion about adopting? So we would be adopting the Jack Welch Memorial Bridge at Picture Canyon Natural and Cultural Preserve.
Yeah, I would make that motion that the Flagstaff City Council establish naming of the Picture Canyon Bridge, Memorial Bridge, name of Jack. Is it Steve Welch?
Just Jack Welch.
Just Jack Welch.
I second it.
All in favor?
I
Any opposed?
I would just like to say again, thank you all of you folks here
Thank you.
that have done so much work on it, kept it going.
Okay, that's super. So that, it sounds like that is a formal recommendation from us going to city council. Okay. And then item C, Picture Canyon Natural and Cultural Preserve, again, the new proposed trail, the Don Weaver Trail Canyon Route. I don't know if we have maps here today. Do we have a map? So Robert, do you want to talk about this? So this is a reroute in Picture Canyon from an old, just straight line roadbed. It's pretty much in the sun. It can get really hot in the summertime, to doing something a little bit off in the Juniper area more. It seems like a great idea, but just while we're watching this, I mean, if questions come up, one of the ideas is that we actually take our meeting there on April 28th and do a field trip and actually look at the proposed route versus today trying to make a decision about, oh yeah, that's a great, I mean, it seems like a great idea from here, but maybe just take a look and so we know what we're talking about on the ground better. So we can discuss it today, or maybe just have the presentation and then have a better discussion in the field. Just how this goes.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thomas. So I'm actually going to let Sylvia Struce do the presentation here, and then I can jump in and help answer questions along the way. She's been directly involved with the volunteer group that's been advocating for this. Some of the initial folks that were involved in the preservation of Picture Canyon Natural Cultural Preserve to get the city to gain interest in preserving that. We're part of our open space stewards, and they've always wanted to see another alignment. And so they did some fundraising that Sylvia's going to talk about to help us out with our initial trail concept.
You go over next. The next slide is a picture of the pipeline road as it is. So the proposed realignment is this will still be here because it's an access road for the gas company and for us. And so people will still be able to walk on the pipeline trail. But the proposal is to take the trail away from the current pipeline trail because, as you said, it's hot and out there in the weather. It was proposed by a number of folks who, as Robert said, were involved in the original protection of Picture Canyon, and they've remained with us as open space stewards and volunteers. They first proposed this alignment almost 4 years ago in 2021. The pipeline trail is ugly. B, no shade in the summer, C, no protection from the wind, and it's just not that interesting. Also, visitors can hear the waterfalls. So Robert, if you go to the next slide, and that they want to go off the trail to the waterfall, and that's created this series of unauthorized trails. So in the light yellow are the unauthorized trails, the blue is the Rio de Flag running through the canyon. That green line kind of diagonally across is the pipeline trail. So we're particularly where Robert's cursor is, that area in there has a lot of the unauthorized, the social trails that have been made by people because they hear the waterfall and they want to see it. And so this proposed trail will bring them closer so that they can see into the canyon as they're walking. So off to the right is the trail. It kind of goes off, let's see, hold on. The pipeline trail. I'm gonna say about this. So the green trail, Robert, can you go down with your cursor right there where you are at the top right? That green trail is the current formal trail that goes down, like there's stone steps and there's a little area that has petroglyphs, and then it goes down to the footbridge that we were talking about. All right, and the green line that's in the center is the Pit House overlook. So kind of right in the center, nope, right to the right.
Thanks.
Right there. That goes down to the Pit House overlook. And then the one to the left is the Petroglyph overlook, trail. All right. And, so going to the next slide. So you can see, let's see. Let me just go up to the screen. The whole Don Weaver Trail from near where the footbridge is and where it would break off, the new trail would break off is 0.65 miles long. So the existing Don Weaver Trail. And the new trail would encompass about a half mile of that. So it would kind of cut off the pipeline trail and it would be about a half mile long. The trail would be a single track trail, so about 2 feet wide. So it wouldn't be like a big wide trail, wide enough for a person with a stroller. Probably not great for a bicycle. And horses could go down it, but they might not want to go down it. As a single track. So again, the pipeline trail would stay open to people to use. So this is the proposed trail. And so you can see it kind of just come down off of the pipeline trail, not quite to the ridge, like where the cliffs kind of drop off into the Rio de Flag. And kind of the center part that is highlighted in particular does have some archaeology that's there. And so we were working around that archaeology and also working with some existing social trails that are there, like why dig a new trail if there's already one there, right? And so it's surprising to me when I walk it, the difference between walking on the pipeline trail and just still up on the ridge. But just on the ridge, it is surprising, like when you look back, you can't see the pipeline trail and you really can see all into the canyon. So with next steps, so 1A, the Open Spaces Commission update, that was actually done a while back. Robert, if you go to the next slide, there you go. And then the joint project with Flagline Trail and an archaeologist. So the group had to hire somebody to say, is this trail a possibility even? With an archaeologist there to provide a buffer around those archaeological sites. And so that group raised money on their own. Everybody made donations of over $2,000 for to pay Flagline Trail, to design the trail. And now we're here at the Open Space Commission review and recommendation now and then next month, if you choose to hike it. And then and then based on your recommendation, then the staff would make a decision about it too. And then comes submitting it to SHPO, and in your materials is a draft letter to the State Historic Preservation Office. We've already sent one to them a while back, and so we had State Historic Preservation Officer come and hike the trail with us. And so it should be okay with SHPO at this point. And then we have to get permission from Arizona State Parks, like is it something that they are okay with us doing? And then after the state review would be tribal consultation, review and approval. And obviously apply for grants to make it happen. An archaeologist would need to be on site at least through parts of the trail, because we can't do any groundbreaking without an archaeologist there. And NEPA, so National Environmental Protection Act, analysis might be needed if we're using federal funding for it. So that's still, we're uncertain about whether we have to go through a NEPA process. And then get bids to complete the work and then actually complete the work. So those are the next steps for this. So that's our check.
We walk once in there. Is that
Yeah.
different? Or that's the one that we
There's
post?
that middle section there that's highlighted is different because the initial walk that you all did went down further.
We were closer to the rim at
Closer to the rim, yeah.
This is
And so
more
this is
up to the north.
up higher and further away from archaeology.
Where does the waterfall on that?
The waterfall is. Actually. Back there.
Okay, and where's the bridge?
Or the bridge?
Over here. Over here.
Okay, the bridge that I was talking about went
Yes, you're talking
Across
about the railroad bridge. that's
railroad
right
bridge
in here.
across just
Yeah.
before the
Yep.
dam.
And so this ends, the end on the right-hand side connects to the existing formal trail. And then it connects back to the, Tom Mooney Trail over here.
So it is a big loop.
It is still a loop, yes, yeah.
Looks like a great improvement.
Did the grant include requesting funds to get rid of all the social trails when you're done with them?
That's next on the agenda.
Oh.
We've been working on that.
I mean, I think that it would be a good idea if I wasn't here on the field trip. I know probably half the commission was, but half the commission wasn't. So, I'd like to just propose that we meet out there for our April 28th meeting. And, we'll pick a spot specifically and go on a field trip and talk about it. Because, I mean, we seem to be getting into a lot of trails these days. We know what we're talking about when we're approving reroutes and stuff like that. I really appreciate your presentation and all the work that's gone into that. And, you know, knowing that you've gotten the trail alignment and worked with the archaeologist on that, that's really gonna help you in the long run.
Are you suggesting we not vote on this today?
Yeah, I'm suggesting that we, just have a discussion or we vote on this, actually, we could vote on it out in the field. Or, but let's get eyes on the ground, because half the group wasn't here when you walked it the first time.
I think just Lena and I saw were on the field trip the last.
Okay,
Actually, we can't vote on it because it's not on the agenda as a decision
Exactly.
item.
Yeah.
But just an information item. So I was gonna say, I'm willing to go with it, but just to save time, because look at all the things I have to go through, but it's not on the agenda as an action item, so can't do it anyways.
you good with the field trip?
What's that?
Are you good with the field trip next month?
Okay, oh, sure.
Okay.
I threw this map up here just to kind of give you an idea, better idea of what we're talking about here. Here's the parking area that you're probably familiar with. So you walk in, just before you get to turn off for the deep water pond here, if you make a left, then there's the pipeline that travels through Picture Canyon that predates the conservation easement of the property. And so they do have an easement there for following their pipeline to make sure it's in repair. So we currently call part of that pipeline the Don Weaver Trail, but the connection that you saw just a minute ago starts kind of right in here, kind of up above the switchbacks, and follows kind of more or less like the rim, and then would pop out right out here with the Don Weaver Trail. And like Sylvia was saying, like the main reasoning for this would be to provide like more natural experience.
So would you have a renaming of like that would now be the Don Weaver Trail and the pipeline would be Pipeline Road or
We
something?
could do that.
Something.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
I was actually curious, I'm glad you reached the subject, with the realignment of a trail and creating a new access point. Is that an opportunity to name that new trail, like leave the existing Don Weaver Trail as Don Weaver Trail and maybe acknowledge and honor the tribal affiliation of the archaeology of the site and maybe name it something that's more honoring to its history versus another
I think that's-
person.
Yeah, open up for discussion for sure. I think the naming of Don Weaver and Tom Moody with the original preservation of the preserve was important to the community at the time. I think both of those folks kind of play a role in Picture Canyon, so that's why they're recognizing the naming of the trails. But I'm sure that, we could have a discussion about that if we wanted to. So I think the direction we hear is that everybody would love a field trip out there. So next month, they'll be doing some work here at this facility, so it won't be open to us anyway. So we'll plan on a field trip out there. We can walk this alignment, so just something to keep in mind to come dressed for that.
Great.
And yeah,
I think we're okay, but given that list of dues for this project, is there any time sensitivity with us approving this?
Well, it sounded like we needed to approve it and then they're gonna talk to Shippo Parks and Museum all at the same, well, it's talking to Shippos and Parks pretty much, and then that can happen at the same time. And even the travel review will go at the same time as that too. So I think I'm hoping that a month, if you could just wait a month, that all those other balls can roll pretty quick afterwards. I mean, they also take time.
yeah, we don't. There's not anything that's time sensitive on our open space sections end. So this priority actually falls a lot lower than some of our other projects that we're working on. Like right now, we're working on wrapping Mason Trail Plan. This is really a citizen-driven concept that they would like us to consider. And so in our consideration, we work with SHPO to watch that alignment and like help them draft this concept with like line trails and that's one of the reasons that we're bringing this to you today, because it is like something that the citizens are interested in, at least a portion of them. And it could support our preserve. And we're interested in hearing the commission's recommendation about adding this alignment. Some things we want to keep in consideration is that we do have a conservation easement over this property that the state holds that dictates what we can do out there. So this is not, your recommendation wouldn't be an end all. We would still have to submit it through their process. We're limited to like 10% of the property for development. So state parks would consider that. They would consider this as new development, which would go towards that total amount. And their state park board would have to review it and approve it as well. And that would also, Sylvia mentioned that we've been working with State Historic Preservation Office. They would weigh in on the concept to make sure that they didn't think that it had any negative impact to the cultural sites. They kind of had some of that initial review. It wasn't a formalized review process. We just were engaging them to make sure that this was doable. We didn't want that group to get too far down the road before we had them weigh in. And so we did some of that initial work with them as well.
Is the only other development that's planned in the future, the restrooms at the entrance?
Mostly, yeah.
I
So
mean, do we have any conflict as far as the space that we're allowed to develop on?
great question. I don't, at this point in time, our section doesn't plan any, is not planning any new development with the exception of some new science. We do have some new science going in with our TP project. That does count towards our development as well. We recently did and I'll tell you about this a little bit later, but a reroute of one of our trains. We are going to do fence at some point. That is a project we'd like to consider. I do believe that would count towards our development as well. That is something I have to check on. But there are a few projects, but no major like trail development projects are under consideration at this time.
So nothing that's gonna, preclude us from having one or the other, or having to make the.
I don't think so. Yeah. Some of the trails actually predate the conservation easements. So the impacts that were already there were kind of against that initial development. So I think we still have quite a bit of wiggle room. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but. So this is something that we wanted to consider. I think it would be doable within the confines of the conservation easement parameters, as long as the Parks Board and the Historic Preservation Office thought it was a good use of the property. And this is something that the public is probably going to be very interested in. They were very interested in the initial preservation of Picture Canyon. And so it could be that the public has some input on this one particular topic.
Does anyone from the public have any
I can-
comments about it?
I can zoom back out to the trail.
Oh, you do? You like the ideas? Okay, cool. All right, we got A-OK already. So let's put that on that's where we're gonna go for our April 28th meeting, since we're not meeting here in any case.
And if you could review the letter before next month too, so you.
Yeah.
Know what's in it, that'd be great.
So the letter was provided in the packet and the email.
One last comment I'll make.
Yeah.
So this is the trail plan for Picture Canyon. Kind of shows you like where the trails go. You have the Tom Moody loop that kind of comes out, crosses the bridge where the we were just talking about, and then comes past the Waterbird site. That's this little spot here, and then follows the east boundary. This is private property over here on the eastern boundary. And then that loop kind of comes out along the north boundary. All of this is private here as well on the north. And then it dips down to the south, which this boundary is shared with the Sheep Hill Mine before paralleling past the Kinder Morgan pipeline location. And then the Don Weaver, which is mostly the current road, minus the switchbacks that kind of come down the hillside. And then the Arizona Trail doubles up the Tom Moody for a little while before it crosses the bridge and then kind of independently crosses the preserve. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we already have trails. And one of the things that we do try to think about is having space that's not developed as well, like you've been seeing in the observed Mesa trail plan. So, we think that because this trail is kind of in a kind of more centralized and heavily used area, it could be something that could be a good addition. Sure.
Yeah, I think it's really looks good to me, and I like loop trails. Which you had them before, but this shorter loop now. What I'm wondering about is part of the priorities is to connect with the foot system. Where would that connect on this map?
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I thought maybe when we're out there in April, we could talk about that as well. And I'm happy to move maps. I think we'll have to move maps. Actually, I'll just point it out generally here. So
Yeah.
Actually, I'll need to pull up another map, which is not hard to do, but maybe we could save that for like our discussion next month. It essentially would come kind of across the street where the trailhead is located.
Mhm.
And then if you cross over the Rio de Flag, the county's property is right there.
Yeah.
And then it would more or less follow the Rio de Flag alignment. And that is something that we're currently working on, securing the rights for.
So we follow that canyon,
It would follow the Rio de Flag, yep.
and that canyon needs to be cleaned up too.
Yeah, could use some work.
Yeah.
You bet.
But then how does it get across the railroad tracks for I-40?
Now you're talking stuff that's super exciting. Yeah. It would need an underpass to support that. There is an existing underpass there underneath I-40.
Yeah.
And we're currently kind of working on discussions for improving the underpass, like under Route 66 and the railway. The railway plans to like extend their operations to like 4 lines in that particular area. So they do have to do some rebuilding and to allow water flow to come underneath there.
Sure, yeah.
So our stormwater department's kind of working on that now. But it's just in the very early stage of the conversation, so there's nothing.
It'll be a long time.
So we just share.
Can you use, oh, this is, no, I'm going to say you could use part of Hill 66 to get up there to near the bridge system at 66 and the mall area there.
The Foot's master plan, I'll direct you to the screen here. So here's the water pond. So here's the trail that kind of comes from the trail head, which is right here along El Paso Flagstaff Road. So the initial concept would be to come down along the Rio de Flag, as you can see here. Some of this is already kind of roughed in across the county's property. And then it would come down along some city property. It would come across 2 private entities, the Cemex property and the Restoration Soils property, before coming down along Route 66 and connecting with the future Flint's location there. And then you can see the connection that you're referring to, that underneath 66 and 1940. So we can talk about that more.
Yeah.
Next month.
I got some ideas.
Yeah, it's exciting. And this is something that the commission just weighed in on as far as like funding this connection during the BBB funds. So yeah, be exciting to talk about.
That'd be great.
Okay. So D is the recreational trails program, Picture Canyon Trail Restoration and Project Completion Update.
Yeah, thanks. That's me. I have a
Sounds like
few
you
pictures I think for you. So.
Did a bunch of stuff already.
I didn't put anything special together as far as a presentation, but I just included some pictures. You might have seen this already in your packet. But we've been working hard to complete a recreational trails program grant for Picture Canyon. And that project really identified areas that needed to be restored, mainly like unauthorized motorized trails and unauthorized like slope trails and motorized and slope trails, I should say. And then also work to address like repairs and a reroute along the Tamuti and Don Weaver trails. We did a reroute kind of near the Waterbird site where we moved the trail further away from the petroglyphs because we were getting a fair amount of graffiti. And then we did some work on the petroglyph overlook, like installing some stairs because of the loose terrain there. So in totality, what we kind of did was we did some repairs to petroglyph overlook, the reroute for Waterbird. We did some trail repairs for about 0.06 of a mile along the Tom Moody. We did a lot of restoration work that was over 1.2 acres, which involved like erosion control and seeding, and some restoration along the Arizona Trail as well, Don Weaver and the Tom Moody. And then we installed some boundary signs, some no vehicle signs, some restoration area signs, some cultural protection signs, We added some great additions to our main welcome signs. We have a lot of temporary signage throughout the year, and then we need like fire closures, and that sort of thing. And to this date, we try to do our best to like hang those up in a way that doesn't impact the resource, but we really need some place to like hang those up so we're not like tacking them to trees. So we did some really cool additions to the current signage up there. An archaeologist had to oversee a lot of the project as well because of some of the groundbreaking activity that would take place inside the archaeological polygons. So that was kind of a big deal for us. And then we printed a bunch of maps. So we've made a lot of great progress on this particular grant. And then we also contributed a lot of our base funds and some additional funds to this project in order to achieve everything. So here's some pictures. Here's where the Arizona Trail kind of comes into the preserve. You can see the Tom Lee is in pretty disrepair. And we did some repairs there. We did a lot of like surface repairs to the trail as well. You can see Sylvia helped manage this project, so feel free to jump in at any time. There's some work here on the steps leading down to the Petrovic Overlook. Much less harrowing to get down there now. That's exciting. Here's a great picture. You can kind of just barely see where the old trail used to be. Even the signs were moved down. So the trail kind of came up right here, right along the boulders here. So we dropped it down just 3 or 4 feet to get it a little further away from the rock art sites. And that particular part of the project turned out, I think, really well. And here's an idea of kind of what the restoration involved. You can see this old road kind of leading off that people are still utilizing. And here's what it looks like after. So it really is made a big impact as far as the visual aspect of it. Here's another one, an old road here. And what this involved was coming in and doing seed bed preparation. So preparing the top 4 to 6 inches of the topsoil. And then adding seed, adding mulch, and then we did a lot of erosion netting, like you see here, to kind of help hold everything down. And then did our best to try to re-naturalize it. And I think over time, there'll be less and less apparent. Here's another example here. You can kind of just really see the mulch. Mulch netting there. And it's all meant to biodegrade too. We didn't use any plastic netting. So it'll biodegrade over time, even though that's a slow process. And then this is a picture of a few of our signs that we put in. So we tried to reinforce the idea that we want people to stay on the main route. So there's a lot of restoration signs. And then we try to do our best to like notify visitors of some of the more cultural sites or places they're not supposed to drive. Yeah, then we updated the map as well. So that's kind of it in summary. We're excited that we just submitted our closeout letter to the state on this project. We have a little bit of remaining work that they do know about, and we'll continue to kind of chip away at that and let them know when we're fully complete. But this is a project that we had in front of the commission probably over 2 years ago, asking for approval for submitting that grant, and that's something that you all supported at that time. So I just wanted to update the group and let you know that we're done.
Commissioner Fox? Kudos to whoever for all of this work, especially for the work with the restoration. This is a tough site with all the cinders and all the invasive plants, and it really looks nice out there. I was up there about 3 hours ago, and it really does look great out there. So nice work, everybody. Congratulations. And thank you.
I just had a question. So there were a couple of remaining signage things that were out of the grant parameters that were on your notes here.
Yeah.
Is there a timing for like when that signage
Yeah.
might go in?
Yeah, the interpretive sign, we're working on finishing up the design for that currently. So we'll likely fund that next fiscal year. And installation will be next fiscal year. So starting in July. Yeah, what else is on there?
There's a couple signs.
Yeah, the same with the wayfinding sign.
Yeah.
El Paso Flagstaff Road. there. Yeah, and then we are investigating how to replace our current signage. It's pretty old, and it's sun damaged, so we hope to address that maybe, if not this next fiscal year, then probably.
So like maybe like 18 months for what's left on the list and then.
Yeah.
Within like another year, maybe for the other stuff.
That sounds
That-
good.
I'm good. I just remember when I was newly moved here, or maybe we were visiting our daughter here when she was in school and going out there. And maybe it's because I know the site a little bit better and I've taken people out there. But I just remember my first visit feeling very lost and really not knowing where I was going and heading out on the pipeline, road, knowing I must be going in the wrong direction. And there was no map and very little signage, recognizing it was quite a gem, but yet didn't have all the infrastructure that would warrant the kind of site that it is. And being amazed that you could just like walk right up next to, a petroglyph, and thinking how is this here and how haven't people, marred it. So I was just kind of amazed. And so all this work is just, I think is really great. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
one thing we did under the grant, one of the first things we did was to print new maps.
Yeah.
Too, so there's the visitor brochure box, and we keep that filled, and it used to be a thing that was like, I don't even know how big, like 2 feet, like 3 feet or something, the map that unfolded, and that was super expensive, so we got it down to legal size.
Yeah. I've even like printed it at home before I head out when I'm taking something to the gate,
Yeah.
So.
And that's great feedback too. So we did have a new member start in our team that is our NAU like ELC program member that's working with Ashley in the education department. And that type of feedback where it's a first time user, if they're not familiar with the trail, is actually really beneficial to us. Like he identified a couple spots that were confusing, and we actually did put in some restoration signage to indicate like that this particular spot's not a trail. So if you have like friends and family that are coming to visit, and let them lead the way, and they get confused, let us know about that, because we definitely want that type of feedback. Yeah, so I think it's gotten a lot better over the years now.
River, out of curiosity, the signage that is the interpretive signage, how much does a single sign usually cost? Just for reference.
So do you know, remember at the top of your head?
Oh, $1,000 anyway.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for including like the steel posts and installation. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like all said and done, install, design and physical.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, we have people with the city that are designing. And with the pit house interpretive sign, we had, one of the reasons it's taking so long is to get some tribal input on the sign as well. So we're gonna have, like the different words for pit house and the Flagstaff area and the different plants that they wanted to include. And we'll have that in Navajo, will be in Spanish.
Thank you. Well done with all that work. So E is Greater Observatory Mesa Area Trail Plan Update. Staff will provide the commission with an update on the trail plan.
Yeah, this is just kind of a reminder that we are going to city council for their input. We did come up with a date that we're going to city council. That was May 13th, 2025. We are on the agenda. So we have a little bit of homework to do with our legal department to make sure we're good. But as soon as we have that clearance, we'll get that agenda posted on the city council's agenda. And that will be an informational update and a discussion and input if city council wants to provide us with input. We are tentatively on the schedule to go back to city council for a resolution consideration, and that would be in June 3rd. If we get a lot of feedback on May 13th from city council, we might actually be pushing that back based on like how much revisions we're having to do the plan chase and take it over. That is the, so just wanted to make you all aware of that. If you have any questions?
If you're planning on going, can you please let Robert know, because if there's a quorum, he needs to post that.
Question, you said June, it says on here June 3rd is the city council resolution date, but that's not a public city council meeting date. Is that correct?
I don't know. I guess I'll look at that.
Unless my calendar might be wrong. I thought I added them.
It-
It looks like the 10th is the,
They have a public meeting every Tuesday,
Oh.
except unless there's 5 Tuesdays in a month when they don't have a meeting. So the 3rd is the first
okay.
voting council meeting. So on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, they have voting council meetings, and on the 2nd and 4th, they have work sessions where it's more discussion oriented and non-voting. So the 3rd is why the resolution is scheduled for that day, because it will vote.
Great. Thank you for the clarification.
What time on the 13th?
Those meetings start at 3 o'clock, but we are not the first item on the agenda. So if you can guess how long the other agenda items go, then you can come up with a time. I really don't know, so I'll be there at 3 o'clock, but
Can we bring dinner?
you can join virtually if you want to. Yeah.
It's getting long.
Okay. So again, let Robert know if you're going, please. And even attending online would count as attending, so.
For April or for May?
For both of them, because, he needs to post if there's a forum list there. It's just a requirement. of the open space meeting law. So Councilmember Spence, we're.
Yes,
Hi, we're up to reports and updates. Is there a city council liaison report?
are you asking on the 4th of April?
Just for anything in general, council members, so in the past, we reserve some reserve some time in our agenda for any updates that you might want to provide the commission from city council. So if you have anything that you think that might be important for the commission to hear, that would be a fine time. But if not, that's okay too.
Okay, no, I I appreciate the opportunity to share, and at this moment, I can't think of anything coming from council back to open space. But I will remember this for future meetings that you're interested in potential feedback from the council. So thank you.
Commissioner Norton, planning and zoning? I don't have anything this time. Meeting this week's canceled, and our meeting 2 weeks ago was canceled, so we haven't had a lot going on. Is there an open space management report?
I don't think I have too much either. Do you have anything, Sylvia?
Just that the city's volunteer software, is up volunteer.flagstaffaz.gov. It's up there at all of our events, whether we need volunteers or not. So for example, the full moon hikes are all up there through December 2025. But also we have, some Flagstaff high school field trips that are coming up starting tomorrow and next week that we needed some help with just to manage the number of kids. We have some more, although the RTP grant is done, we're not done with the work. So we have several volunteer groups coming to do more trail restoration work at Picture Canyon, as well. So get on there and see what's on the calendar.
Yeah, it's
What was that website again?
Volunteer.flagstaffav.gov.
as far as the grants, we have some ongoing work that will be going on with Heritage Grant. So Ashley Flinney has been doing great work with education. So you might, if you're out there, you might see some of the field trips that we're leading out there. So that's exciting. In fact, she's going to come in May at the end of the school year and do an update for the commission about all the things that she's been doing and she's been up to. So I think good for us to hear. And then we do have the invasive plant grants. They're about to kick off work again up on Observatory Mesa. So if you're up there, you might see some of their crew doing some work up there. That involves weed mitigation, but it also involves restoration work for the old chipping piles that are up there. So if you're out about, you'll see some of that. That's all I've got.
And there is a pros monthly newsletter that's out, came out for February 2025. You can get that online. And so item eight, informational items to and from commissioners and staff. Commissioners.
I did have one, and that is transportation for our field trip. We do have a recreational van that they let us use sometimes. So if you're interested in sharing a ride, we can try to arrange that for you. Or if you'd rather just meet out at Picture Canyon Trailhead, that's okay too. I just thought I'd ask the group and see what's preferable.
I was gonna throw out that we meet out there, but
Actually, won't be able to make the April meeting. I know. But I've been on, I know where we're talking about. I may go out there before then anyway. I'll be on my way back from the Grand Canyon.
And I think I'll drive out early and go for a run.
Cool.
Thanks.
Think we meet there. I will meet there.
All right, we'll meet then. That makes it.
I had a question for Sylvia. If I recall, you've done like invasive weed workshops for the community
Yeah,
before. Are you gonna be doing that again this spring?
yeah, so on June 3rd, there's a couple things happening. One, we're arranging, there's a woman, Renee Canali, who works for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and she has managed to create an invasive plant management plan for the whole Navajo Nation. And she has a pretty great presentation about the work that they've done on the Navajo Nation with invasive weeds. So at noon on June 3rd, she's going to be presenting at the East Flagstaff Public Library. So like a lunch and learn kind of thing. And then that evening at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7:30, we'll be doing an outdoor invasive plant workshop. That area that people call it Dog Pound Road, right, South 4th Street, as if you're going to the Humane Society. There's that little parking area that's off to the right. We'll be in there doing the invasive weed workshop for the public. And then we'll walk back behind along the Rio de Flag there to identify invasive weeds, use different apps to identify them and remove some of them, like the best practices for removing them. And then later on, I think also in June, we don't have a date yet, but we want to do a native plant workshop as well. So why we don't like invasive plants and what to replace them with.
Great, I will share the information.
Okay, and that's on that volunteer, well, maybe I haven't put it up there yet, but it will be on that volunteer.flag section set out. And we will be doing invasive weed pulls pretty much every other Wednesday throughout the summer.
gonna win.
Hmm?
You're going to win. Potential future agenda items, number 9. Oh, sorry.
Just informational items to and from commissioners and staff. I just want to report, I think the first and I think the second reading for a change in the resource protection overlay ordinance was passed by the council. And it was a change that said that any trees in roadways, removal of those trees would not count as part of the resource protection. Before, trees in the whole parcel were part of the resource protection formula.
Mm-hmm.
Now, any trees that are in any of the roadways are not part of that formula. It's the remaining trees that then are part of the formula. So I just wanted to report that.
Do they have to put roads in that avoid trees? Like, do they have to?
Not necessarily.
Mhm.
They're encouraged to protect them like heritage trees and clusters, but they often come in with their plan before that.
The next step in this is an experiment, and correct me if folks know more about it than I do, where they will use LiDAR to measure where the trees are in this development parcel. And then work with the developer to see how many trees they can save based on the LiDAR, which also measures heights of trees and things like that. So there's a technical aspect coming, going to be tried on this. So resource protection was a very important thing back in the late 80s to the community, not
On this topic of what to replace invasive weeds with, it's an informational item. The next meeting of the Arizona Native Plant Association, the Arboretum is growing Beb's willows for the Forest Service. We're going to be talking about that, and maybe we'll find out why they're growing it. Anybody that's a Beb Willows fan can learn more about them. Just
So potential future agenda items.
Yes, so I had next month for field trip to Picture Canyon.
Mhm.
And we can take a look at the Don Weaver alignment, and then we can talk a bit about the Flagstaff Urban Trail System connection. And where that alignment would go. I'll bring you a map for that. And then I have a potential update on the Flagstaff Urban Trail System. We'll see if that comes through or not. But if you have items that you'd like to see in a future agenda item or updates on anything, let me know.
I think we're ready to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much, everybody.
Good job, Jackie.
Trying. So make sure to read that letter before we go on the field trip that Sylvia has drafted to send to Shippo.
When did that get sent out?
It should be in the packet, the print on it. I've got the Jack Walsh Memorial Bridge naming letter. But I might not have printed out that letter. So I got this letter, the Jack Walsh Memorial Bridge naming letter, but I didn't see the letter.
I think it was, I saw it through the link to the agenda, online with the city councils, all of their agendas.
Uh-huh.
So in there, looking through, I think the letter was there, is where I saw.
Yeah, cause I didn't see it.
Okay.
See you next. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.